Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you've ever had a neighbor or HOA try to boss you around about your own yard, you're going to love today's story. This one is for anyone who believes in turning obstacles into art, standing up for your space, and maybe adding a little magic to the neighborhood. So grab your favorite snack, get comfy, and let me tell you how one problem tree became the most legendary dragon on the block. Have you ever been told to get rid of something you love, just because it doesn't fit someone else's idea of perfect? That was me, just enjoying the shade of my favorite tree when suddenly the HOA decided it had to go. But instead of giving in, I decided to get creative, and trust me, the results were more epic and more fire-breathing than anyone expected. But before we get into the dragon's tail, let me take a moment to wish something special for you. If you're watching this, I want to say a quick prayer for you and your loved ones. May your days be filled with inspiration, your home with peace, and may you always have the courage to turn challenges into something beautiful. Amen. All right, let's set the scene. I live in a neighborhood where the HOA is obsessed with curb appeal. You know the type: perfect lawns, matching shutters, and a rulebook that's longer than a fantasy novel. Enter Karen, the self-appointed queen of the HOA. Clipboard in hand, always on patrol, she's got a sixth sense for anything that doesn't fit her vision of perfection. Now, I'm not one to break the rules for fun. I keep my yard tidy, my house painted, and my trash cans out of sight. But I also love my old oak tree. It's been there longer than any of us. Huge, shady, and home to more birds than I can count. It's the kind of tree that makes a house feel like a home. One day, I came home to find a bright orange notice taped to my door. Tree in violation of HOA guidelines, must be removed within 30 days. I was stunned. I checked the rules, and sure enough, there was a vague line about overgrown or unsightly trees. But my tree wasn't dead or dangerous, it was just big. I asked around, and it turned out Karen had filed the complaint herself, claiming the tree blocked the view and dropped too many leaves. I tried to reason with her, but she wouldn't budge. "It's an eyesore," she said. "It needs to go." The next HOA meeting was a circus. Half the neighbors loved the tree, the other half just wanted to avoid Karen's wrath. But the board sided with her, and the clock started ticking. I was heartbroken. I didn't want to lose my tree, but I also didn't want to rack up fines. That's when I got an idea. If the tree had to come down, maybe it didn't have to disappear. What if I turned it into something everyone could enjoy? I started researching tree carving and stumbled on some incredible wood sculptures. Bears, eagles, even entire totem poles. But then I saw it, a dragon, majestic, fierce, and just a little bit rebellious. That was it. If I had to lose my tree, I was going to gain a dragon. I called a local chainsaw artist, showed him my idea, and he was all in. We sketched out a design: wings curled around the trunk, scales carved into the bark, a head that looked like it was ready to roar. The artist said it would take a few days, but when it was done, it would be the talk of the town. The next weekend, the work began. The sound of chainsaws drew a crowd, neighbors peeked over fences, kids watched from their bikes, and even a few skeptics couldn't help but be curious. The artist worked with incredible skill, shaping the trunk into a dragon's body, carving scales, claws, and a long curling tail. I helped where I could, sanding and painting, making sure every detail was just right. As the dragon took shape, the mood in the neighborhood started to change. People stopped by to chat, offer snacks, and take photos. Even folks who'd never spoken to me before wanted to see the progress. The kids started calling it Smaug, and made up stories about the dragon guarding the street. After a week of hard work, the dragon was finished. It was stunning. Wings outstretched, mouth open in a silent roar, scales glinting in the sun. I added a little plaque at the base: "From roots to legend. May we all find new life in change." The next morning, I sat on my porch with a cup of coffee, waiting for Karen's reaction. Sure enough, she came marching down the sidewalk, sunglasses on, lips pursed. She stopped dead in her tracks when she saw the dragon. For a moment, she just stared, speechless. Then she stormed up to my porch, rulebook in hand. "This is not what we meant by removal," she snapped. I smiled and said, "Well, the tree's not blocking your view anymore, and it's definitely not dropping any more leaves." Pause. Have you ever turned a problem into something amazing? Or had a neighbor who just couldn't handle your creativity? Drop your story in the comments or just type Team Dragon if you're all about legendary solutions. And if you're enjoying this, hit that like button so we can keep the magic going. Karen was not amused. She called an emergency HOA meeting. Flyers went out, emails were sent, and soon the whole neighborhood was buzzing. Some people were outraged, others were secretly delighted. The meeting was packed. Karen stood at the front, waving photos of my dragon like she was presenting evidence in a crime trial. She demanded that the HOA force me to remove the sculpture. But when the board reviewed the rules, they realized there was no specific ban on tree carvings or yard art. The rules were vague, and I'd technically followed the order to remove the tree as a living plant. The board was split. Some thought the dragon was a bit much, but others argued it was time to update the rules and let people express themselves. While the HOA deliberated, something amazing happened. My dragon became a local landmark. People started taking selfies in front of it. Kids loved the story. A few neighbors even asked for the artist's contact info so they could add their own sculptures. Someone left a bouquet of flowers at the base of the dragon with a note. "Thanks for making the neighborhood more magical." Even the local paper got wind of the story. They ran a piece called "The Dragon That Changed the Block." Suddenly, my house was famous. People drove by just to see the dragon. Some even brought their dogs for dragon photos. A week later, the HOA called me in. The president said, "We've never had a situation like this before. While your dragon is unique, you did follow the rules. We're going to allow it, but we'll be updating the guidelines for future projects." Karen was furious, but the board's hands were tied. The dragon was here to stay. And here's the best part. The HOA decided to let homeowners vote on new yard art options. Suddenly, the neighborhood was full of creativity. Sculptures, fountains, even a few new tree carvings. The whole street looked brighter, happier, and a lot less like a row of cookie-cutter houses. Karen, well, she still walks by every day, sunglasses on, lips pursed. But now she's surrounded by a neighborhood that's a little more open-minded. She never said another word about my dragon. In fact, I caught her grandkids taking selfies in front of it last week. Maybe, just maybe, she's starting to see the fun in a little magic. As for me, I love my dragon. Every time I check the mail or sit on my porch, I feel like I'm living in a fairy tale. It's a daily reminder that sometimes the best way to deal with criticism is to create something even more amazing. So what's the lesson here? Don't let anyone cut down your dreams. If someone tells you to get rid of something you love, find a way to make it legendary. Stand your ground, know your rights, and remember that your home is your canvas. Life's too short for boring yards. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with a friend who needs a little inspiration. And remember, may your days be magical, your neighbors be kind, and your creativity never fade. Stay legendary, everyone.